The film opens with a group of Navy SEALs lounging in a locker room, amusing themselves by watching women scantily dancing on a phone screen. They were clearly enjoying themselves to the fullest. As nightfall came, this same group of soldiers embarked on a mission. On their way there, two of them humorously mimicked the dance moves they'd just seen. Quietly and efficiently, a pair of soldiers scaled a fence and slipped into an Iraqi home. Once inside, they unlocked the main gate, allowing the rest of the team to enter. They moved through the house silently, and as they checked each room, they calmly instructed the occupants to remain silent. Once assured that no one would interfere, they turned their attention to a sealed-off room. However, the person inside had already heard them and was rushing his family to safety. The SEALs broke through a section of the wall and held the Iraqi man at gunpoint. They gained full control of the residence, keeping its residents closely monitored. Each soldier took a strategic position. Ray Mendoza, the JTAC communications officer, coordinated air support, while medic Elliot Milner and a sniper surveyed the market across the street. This setup was designed to provide overwatch for a U.S. Marines operation. The team relayed every observation through a radio system. The sniper identified nearly everyone in the market and noted any possible threats. Among the crowd, one man stood out as suspicious. The sniper kept an eye on him and soon realized that the man was also watching them. Suddenly, the dog stationed outside began barking. Captain Eric radioed Alpha 2 to alert them of potential hostile movement. The sniper noticed more people peering in their direction and described the situation to the rest of the team. Soon after, they were informed that their air support was being withdrawn. The comms officer quickly tried to reach out for alternate air support, but none was available. Abruptly, people in the marketplace began shutting their stalls and retreating indoors. The translators told Eric that a jihad, essentially a call to arms, was being broadcast. Eric responded by ordering them to lock down the lower level to prevent infiltration. Upstairs, the snipers rotated so Ray could relieve himself. Just as he was doing so, a grenade was tossed into their room. The explosion left Elliot seriously wounded, while Tommy and Frank suffered concussions. Under heavy fire, the soldiers returned fire to provide cover and get the injured out of harm's way. Eric reached out to Alpha 2 to report their status and injuries. He was told to hold their position and wait for a casevac to retrieve Elliot. Eric ordered the team to pack up. They needed to relocate quickly as their current spot was now compromised. Sam and Tommy retrieved Elliot's equipment from the sniper post, including his C4 pack and preloaded rifle. Everyone geared up and readied their weapons. Without delay, they detonated claymores placed on the roof, then swiftly moved downstairs in a coordinated manner. The building's residents simply watched the soldiers in silence. Once downstairs, Eric outlined their exit plan. Mac and Laris were assigned to guard the families. Frank would deploy smoke when the tank arrived. Tommy, Sam, and Elliot were the point scouts, guiding Elliot to the casevac. Eric and Ray would provide rear cover. Mac and Laris quickly positioned themselves with the civilians, while the others prepared for extraction. Word came through. The tank had arrived. Frank fulfilled his task and threw a smoke grenade for visual cover. As the smoke thickened, the translators were the first to step outside and confirm the M2 Bradley's presence. Then the rest began to move, but just then, the tank was hit by an IED. One translator was killed instantly in the explosion. Lead Officer Sam's leg was gruesomely twisted and set aflame. Tommy quickly extinguished the fire and dragged Sam back inside as he screamed in agony. Meanwhile, Ray looked at Elliot's mangled body, overwhelmed. Seeing signs of life, he summoned his strength and hauled Elliot inside. Elliot got snagged halfway, so Ray dashed in and instructed Tommy to provide cover while he freed him. Together, they pulled Elliot to safety. Seeing the growing number of injuries, Eric urgently contacted Alpha 2, demanding immediate support as enemy forces were closing in. He urged Jake, Alpha 2's captain, to use the smoke and blood as markers to collapse on their location. They came under even more intense fire, prompting them to move the injured Sam to a safer corner. Alpha 2 relayed that their advance was stalled due to firefights in the streets, and they'd need more time. The team was visibly shaken from the chaos around them. Elliot remained in shock, completely unresponsive. Ray stuffed cloth into Sam's wound to control the bleeding. The civilians protested at the commotion, but Mac held them back. Elliot's leg was horrifically damaged. McDonald informed them that air support had returned, but enemy fighters were directly overhead, so only a show of force could be called. Eric gave the go-ahead. Moments later, the show of force hit, but it also rattled the soldiers inside. Ray realized Sam needed a tourniquet but was too shaken to tie one. Instead, he pressed his knee into the wound, worsening Sam's pain. Seeing Ray falter, Eric stepped in and tied the tourniquet himself. Suddenly, Elliot regained consciousness and screamed in pure agony. McDonald attempted to administer morphine, but fumbled and injected his thumb. He then successfully delivered it on a second try. Ray also injected Sam with morphine. Air support updated that Alpha 2 and their third element were nearing. Alpha 2 clashed with enemy fighters in a fierce firefight but closed in on Alpha 1's position with disciplined movement. They merged with Alpha 1 without taking any casualties and took over control. Eric, too stunned to continue leading, handed command over to Jake. Jake assumed responsibility and instructed the team to prepare for immediate casevac of the wounded, regardless of risk. John, Alpha 2's comms officer, requested 2 casevacs, but the request was denied due to fears of more IEDs. John relayed the situation to their superior. Observing the suffering of the injured, Jake told John to impersonate a higher officer to get the casevacs approved. John followed through, and the Bradleys were immediately greenlit. Jake led a squad outside to retrieve more weapons, then announced that the Bradleys were just 4 minutes away. Meanwhile, some troops covering the rooftop were forced back inside due to intense enemy fire. Jake assigned Mac, Tommy, and Aaron to carry Elliot out first once the Bradleys arrived. Ray and Brock would handle Sam and load him into the second Bradley. As the vehicles honed in on their position, the soldiers prepared Elliot for transport. He screamed in unbearable pain as they folded him up. Another show of force swooped in to mask their movement. The Bradleys soon reached the building, and each team member executed their roles seamlessly. Outside, some troops provided suppressive fire to prevent the enemy from targeting the vehicles. Elliot was successfully loaded into the Bradley on the right. Sam made it into the one on the left. After completing the medevac under fire, the team regrouped inside while enemies began closing in on their position. Air support reported hostiles taking positions on rooftops surrounding them. Jay quickly adapted. He ordered one of the Bradleys to fire on their building's upper floor, believing it had been compromised. Everyone took cover. The 2 Bradleys unleashed firepower on the top deck and adjacent buildings. The soldiers reformed into a coordinated unit. Under the cover of one final show of force, they exited the building. As they made their escape, they provided return fire to hold off the attackers. Within minutes, Alpha 1 and Alpha 2 had been completely extracted. The 2 Bradleys pulled out under a hail of enemy bullets. The families cautiously stepped out of their rooms, only now realizing the troops had left. Meanwhile, the surviving insurgents crept back into the street, examining the burnt remains of the Iraqi translator with a mixture of suspicion and dark fascination. Before the credits roll, real-life SEAL Team 5 members who took part in the mission are shown working behind the scenes, a tribute to their bravery, sacrifice, and the legacy they've left behind. The movie then came to an end. Kindly subscribe for more movie recap like this. Thanks for watching and goodbye.